Good evening and thanks for joining us. Prominent members of the Hong Kong Alliance in support of patriotic democratic movements of China have been remanded in custody after appearing in court today over a state subversion case. The Security Bureau is now moving to revoke the alliance's company registration, which could mean the end of the once prominent pro-democracy group. 3 leaders of the Hong Kong Alliance in support of patriotic democratic movements of China appeared at the West Kowloon Magistrates Court this morning. They are Lee Chek-yan, Albert Ho, and Chow Hang-tong. The trio, as well as the alliance itself, have been charged with inciting subversion against state power. The charge includes the accusation of overthrowing the basic system or central power of China. The alliance, which organized the June 4th vigil, does not have a legal representative. This, as Chow said, the group had been unable to hold a meeting since 7 members of its standing committee remain in custody. With that, the magistrate decided to adjourn the case until October 28th. He says that will also allow more time for the police to investigate more than 50 electronic devices seized from the organization. Lee and Ho are already in jail because of separate cases and did not apply for temporary release. Chow, meanwhile, failed to secure bail. In another related charge, Chow and 4 other core members pleaded not guilty for refusing to hand over information as instructed by the National Security Police. All of them are denied bail. The mentioned hearing for the case is set for October 21st. Meanwhile, the Security Bureau is planning to revoke the alliance's company registration. The Bureau has sent a letter asking for the alliance's written reply before September 24th. If the deregistration proposal is approved by the Chief Executive and the Executive Council and gazetted, the alliance will officially be disbanded. A veteran of the long-standing pro-democracy group called on authorities to think twice before disbanding the group.
Definitely, if the government decided to outlaw a legal entity in Hong Kong, which already operate lawfully for 32 years. It is quite an extraordinary matter. The government need to rethink carefully and have a full account and explanation to the general public of Hong Kong.
In the oath-taking ceremony rolled out for existing councillors, District Councillor Peter Choi was removed from office after failing to turn up to pledge allegiance to the SAR. 7 others who took the oath are still waiting for confirmation, as the Home Affairs Bureau says its commissioner has doubts over their validity. They include Clarice Yeung and Learn Pak In from the pro-democracy bloc. Dong Yang has more.
Today, the first oath-taking ceremony for district council members to pledge allegiance to the Hong Kong SAR. 24 members of district councils on Hong Kong Island completed the legal process in North Point, including those from the opposition camp. They include Clarice Yeung, chair of the Wan Chai District Council, who is currently on bail in relation to a national security case concerning 47 pan-Democrats over last year's unofficial election primaries. The oath-takers took turns to pledge in the closed-door ceremony. Wan Chai District Councillor Paul Chia said the participants read out their oath in a solemn manner with no drama. But completing the pledge does not necessarily qualify the councillors for their role. The process also involves the government vetting their pledge of allegiance and deciding whose oaths are valid.
No, I'm not worried. I've always done exactly what I said today. I uphold the basic law conscientiously, dutifully and honestly. I've always done so and will always do so.
But he also questions the necessity of the oath-taking.
I thought it was superfluous because we've already done it. When we stood for the election, we already made declarations. But we do it today again and reconfirm our position.
Eastern District Councillor Peter Choi was the only member absent from today's ceremony. He said on social media that he joined the council to monitor, not to be loyal to the government, saying he refused to compromise. Secretary for Home Affairs Casper Choi announced that Choi has been unseated from his position immediately. The city has seen an exodus of district council members before the oath-taking, cutting the number of serving councillors by more than half to just 211. After the day, there are 3 more ceremonies for the other councillors to pledge their loyalty. Dong Yang, TVB News.
The Law Reform Commission has recommended that people who fail to report serious physical or psychological harm to a child in their care could face jail terms of up to 20 years under a newly proposed offense. That means there will be legal liabilities on those causing or allowing the death of serious injury of a child. The proposal in the Commission's final report encompasses domestic helpers, social workers, teachers, or relatives taking care of the vulnerable person. They should file a report of any suspected child abuse or else face possible jail time of up to 15 years for their failure to protect. The maximum prison term could be increased to 20 years if their neglect resulted in the death of a child.
This is not something new. If you are seriously injured or you die in custody of the police, they already have a duty of care to you. This is simply a matter of saying that if we can't find the perpetrator, the one who actually inflicted the blow, we would now be able to also prosecute those who knew about it, stood by and did nothing. So it is just expanding the group to the bystanders.
Over to pandemic news. Local health authorities have been informed by their UK counterparts that 2 men arriving on a flight from Hong Kong have tested positive for COVID. One of them is a 16-year-old who lived in Block 19 of Baguio Villa in Pak Fu Lam. He was jabbed and tested negative before his departure. He was asymptomatic when his specimen tested positive in the UK on Monday. The other lived in Block 3 of Kent Court on Boundary Street. He's also vaccinated and tested negative before leaving Hong Kong, but started developing symptoms last Friday. Residents of the 2 buildings must be tested. Meanwhile, the city reported 5 imported cases today. They all tested positive for a mutant strain of the virus. Overseas, U.S. President Joe Biden has spoken by phone with President Xi Jinping. The White House said in a statement that the 2 leaders had a broad strategic discussion during the 90-minute chat. The 2 governments are at odds over cybersecurity breaches originating from China. That's in addition to Beijing's handling of the pandemic and Beijing's trade practices. The White House wants to work together on climate change and North Korea. State-run media says Xi agreed the 2 sides should cooperate on climate change, pandemic prevention, and economic recovery. But Beijing wants Biden to dial down criticism on what it deems Chinese internal matters. The White House said Biden made it clear he will not back away from pressing China on human rights, trade, and other areas where it believes China is acting outside international norms. In the U.S., after months of using promotions to drive the vaccination rate, the Biden administration has ordered sweeping new federal vaccine requirements. James Aiken reports.
Biden announced the new action plan to address a sharp rise in coronavirus cases that's killing more than 1,000 people a day. And he took aim at the nearly 80 million Americans who are not yet vaccinated, despite months of availability and incentives.
The unvaccinated overcrowd our hospitals, are overrunning emergency rooms and intensive care units, leaving no room for someone with a heart attack or pancreatitis or cancer. We've been patient, but our patience is wearing thin, and your refusal has cost all of us.
Under new rules, all employers with more than 100 workers must require them to be vaccinated or test for the virus weekly. That's about 2/3 of all workers. Large segments of the private sector have already stepped in to mandate shots for at least some of their employees. Biden has encouraged COVID-19 vaccine requirements in settings like schools, workplaces, and university campuses. In Los Angeles, protesters gathered as the Board of Education voted to require all students 12 and older to be fully vaccinated in the nation's second-largest school district.
These children are just being victims, and it's child abuse what they're doing to them.
The board's vote Thursday makes Los Angeles by far the largest of a very small number of districts with a vaccine requirement.
I see this as a community necessity to protect the children under 12 who cannot be vaccinated. So that means that people have to sometimes do things that they're uncomfortable with.
As the U.S. struggles to curb the surging Delta variant, experts say most of the spread and the vast majority of severe illness and death is occurring among those not yet fully vaccinated. James Aiken, TVB News.
A second civilian flight since the departure of international troops has just left Afghanistan with the cooperation of the Taliban. The first commercial flight carrying about 200 foreigners landed in Qatar yesterday. Ellen Bugnia has that story.
The Qatar Airways flight to Doha marks a breakthrough in the bumpy coordination between the U.S. and Afghanistan's new rulers. The flight carried Americans, U.S. green card holders, Canadians, and people from several European countries.
That they couldn't make it to the last flight, or they were afraid to go to the airport because of the safety. They were in other cities like me, or they just didn't want to leave, or they had families. They were hoping to take. My mother is the priority. Unfortunately, I was told I could only take my son and husband. They're not here. They're in Canada.
The U.S. State Department estimates there are still about 100 American citizens in Afghanistan.
In our engagement with them, they offered a number of different reasons, those who chose not to take part in this flight. Some wanted more time to consider it. Others wanted to remain with extended family, at least for the time being. Others cited medical issues.
In a virtual meeting, Nobel Prize winner and advocate of girls' education, Malala Yousafzai, urged the United Nations Security Council to do more to protect the rights of women in Afghanistan.
I saw injustice, and I raised my voice for every girl's right to go to school. I saw a gunman stop my school bus, call my name, and fire a bullet at me. I was 15 years old. Now I am 24. I carry scars of 6 surgeries to repair the damage of that one bullet. This is a story that many Afghan girls may share if we do not act.
Many thousands of Afghans remain desperate to get out, afraid of what Taliban rule might hold. The Taliban have said foreigners